What's up, everybody? Marquise here.
And I'm your girl, Crystal.
Welcome back to More to Marriage. I want to ask you a question, okay? How often do you think positively about your spouse?
That's good.
How often do you think about your spouse being a blessing to your life? Here's why I asked that. I recently been following this guy by the name of Dr. Amen. He's a psychiatrist out in San Diego, and he talked about this idea of ANTS. It's an acronym he uses with his patients, and it's called automatic negative thoughts. Automatic negative thoughts. He shares in this episode where he was talking with a pastor that there's between 30,000 and 60,000 thoughts we have a day, and about 2/3 of those are negative thoughts. Woo! About life, about ourselves, about the outlook on the world, whatever it might be, 2/3 of those are negative. And it got me thinking, how often do we think negatively about our marriage or our spouse? Or do we think positively about our spouse? Because we know that when you don't think positive about your spouse, it can weigh on your marriage. There's a burden on your marriage when you're constantly thinking about the negative things versus the blessing that your spouse is to your marriage. It could create some things.
Yes, and the two things ants do to our marriage.
Yeah.
The first thing is this: it creates a performance culture in your marriage.
Come on.
When your spouse is constantly trying to win your approval. Now, I'm gonna just tell you a little story because that's what I like to do. But early on in our relationship, Marquise, I'm into fashion. I like to dress, style, profile sometimes. And Marquise was like, "Man, I'm gonna win this girl over. Like, I'm gonna buy her, gifts and clothes." And y'all, when I began to tell y'all, he used to buy me like gifts and clothes, and every time I will open the gift up, I'll be looking like,
open it like that. Okay,
nice, and like never wear it, because it's just like not my style, not my stilo.
Yeah.
But he was trying to woo me. He was trying to, perform. I guess I don't know, did you think that was gonna make me?
Yeah, just was like, what, she's into fashion, let me get her this. I go to, this store, I ain't gonna say no names. I go to that store, and I just get what I thought was dope. And she'd be like, this isn't me.
Yes.
And for me, I'll be honest with you, the reason why we even bring that up is for me, I started to have that performance culture where it was just like, I get in my head with the negative thoughts. Okay, the gifts I'm bringing aren't good enough. I'm not adequate enough to go shopping for her. Like I'm legit, and that may seem small, but I'm legit in my head thinking negatively about myself. And then I'll be honest, I started to turn like, okay, this girl don't know what she's talking about. This is quality. This is a quality skirt.
It didn't look good, y'all.
But it didn't look good, and you didn't feel good in it.
Yes.
But the reason why we bring that up is because you think, or myself thinking about those negative thoughts, it weighed on our relationship, and it weighed on me.
Absolutely.
And it brought an impact of this negativity of like, am I enough? I can't tell you the amount of people out there in their marriage wondering and thinking, am I enough for this person?
Yes.
And could you imagine thinking, I'm doing life, this is my forever person, and I'm thinking to myself, am I enough for them?
Wow.
That's a tough thing to think about. And it may seem small with the clothes option, but I'm telling you that spun off into so many other things. And those negative thoughts about myself that I had, and then my negative thoughts about Crystal begin to weigh on our relationship.
Absolutely. But I think we have the opportunity to free our spouse. It's like, bruh, you don't have to buy me nothing.
You don't have to think about that.
You don't have. I'm not even a gifts person. Like, I like to give gifts, but receiving them, I'm like, I'm okay or not. It doesn't.
That was an
matter.
epiphany for me when you were like, you ain't got to do this.
You
I
don't
was
have
like,
to do this. I freed the brother up, y'all. Okay, so he don't have to buy me anything. But also, I taught him over time. Hey, what I like. I'm the type of girl that put things in a cart. It's gonna probably sit there for weeks and months, and maybe even years. It's gonna just sit there. And now he's learned. Like, I know if he wants to surprise me, now he knows. I'm gonna go to her computer. I know she has something in her recents.
Buy everything in the cart. Brothers, if you're out there, you don't know what to pick, go to her cart, buy it all, and say Merry Christmas.
Yes,
Call
absolutely. Well, listen, we talk about performance culture in the way of a very small example, but be thinking about that in your own marriage. Am I performing for my spouse in front of my spouse? Am I masking who I really am just to try to win their approval? And if so, go ahead and lay that burden down. It's not worth it.
Because performance in a marriage creates actors.
Yes.
And you're just acting. You got two people acting towards their spouse of things that they like, things that they may not like. And I'm telling you, performance culture in a marriage will erode the trust of your marriage, and it'll blow the marriage up.
Yes.
So that's the first thing. The second thing, that these automatic negative thoughts that we have about ourselves or our spouse, is this: it creates a psychological unsafety. Like we don't feel safe psychologically. When I mean like psychologically safe, or we feel psychologically unsafe, there's this mentality where we start to think to ourselves, man, can I share what's really going on?
Yes.
Can I tell them? Are they gonna lash out? Are they gonna think this about me? And you begin to have these negative thoughts, and you become unsafe when it comes to your thought life. And we think that one of the biggest blessings to our marriage is that we get to share our thought life.
Absolutely. And the truth of the matter is this: your spouse needs and even craves for you to think positive about them.
Yeah, that's good. And so here's what we're going to do. Two things, okay? We're going to dwell and we're going to share. We're going to dwell on the positive things about our spouse. I'm telling you out there to create a space, 15 minutes, 30 minutes, whatever it might be, to say, I'm going to sit and think about the blessing my wife is to me. I'm going to think about the blessing that my husband is to me. And then, not only am I going to intentionally dwell on those things, I'm going to intentionally share those things.
Here's the deal. I have to say this.
Yeah.
Speak those things that are not as though they are. Sometimes we get so caught up when our spouse is not in the best space or place in their journey in their life. And so sometimes we think negative about them because maybe our circumstances are negative. But if you speak those things that are not so, those positive things, even when you're not experiencing them, I promise you that tide would turn. But sometimes we got to get out of ourselves, kind of get out of our situation, and kind of look at it from a bird's eye view and say, man, how can I call my spouse up even when our circumstances and situations aren't really in alignment, right? So
That's
being
good.
positive, it sometimes is harder than it is to be negative. It's easier to be negative.
Absolutely.
But I will hope that we can be a group of people, married people, that just want to champion our marriage. That we wake up and go to sleep every night just enjoying who we're with, and encouraging and supporting and being positive with who we're with.
Yeah, you know, if you want to enjoy a better marriage, you have to think about your marriage more in a positive light.
Yes.
And I think that it begins with speaking and sharing about the things that you are already experiencing. And then, like you said, speak a blessing over your spouse, of things that you want to see, calling them up. Lord, I thank you that this man is a pastor to this home. I thank you that this man is a provider of this home. Whatever it might be, you start calling those things out. And I firmly believe, man, there's power when we pray that way.
Yes.
All right? So remember this, when it comes to your marriage, that getting more out of your marriage starts
With giving more in your marriage.
Until next time.